Welcome to Life on Life's Terms, episode 56. It's Justin
and it's Kenny.
We're going to get into prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and all around men's physical health. But before we get into that, we have to, Life on Life's Terms has to pay some bills. So we're going to give our shout outs to Liam Connolly at Connolly Law for all of your Canadian law, will, estate, and media issues. Please Google Liam Connolly at Connolly Law. For all of your counseling needs, such as addiction or family counseling, please Google adaras.ca. That's ADARS.ca. The famous Chris Suchit will be able to accommodate you through Skype or FaceTime for all of your mental health needs, regardless of your geographical location. Done. Bills are paid.
Yo, episode 56. That's huge.
Yeah. I was pretty excited at 50. Right?
Yeah.
50 was kind of like, wow, we have 50 hours out there, right?
We have to do a special show for 100.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out then.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things, now that we have the sound bites out on Instagram, thank you for all those listeners who are newcomers to Life on Life's Terms. I can definitely see you out there. So shout outs to places like Wisconsin, down in America, as well as New York State. We've got a lot of listeners out in New York, as well as Virginia, know.
Hey, New York has this program that I heard for inmates getting out of the pen can go straight into a social work degree.
It's a life skills program, actually. I know the director of that place. We'll talk about it off air.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But yeah, shout out to her, definitely. I know she's on my LinkedIn, so she's listening to these episodes. Actually, I've had dialogue with her, but we'll get into that because she may actually be coming up here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
sick.
She may be coming up here for there's a corrections thing happening here next year.
Okay.
Yeah, so
bro,
hopefully we can have her sit down with us. It would be kind of neat.
How's your nuts?
Good today.
They're good today.
So let's I'm just going to throw out a couple of stats from those wonderful people called Movember.ca. If you haven't checked out the Movember.ca, they would gladly appreciate a donation from any of us, men or women, about some of the men's issues that are out there. I mean, Movember is a men's movement kind of deal. This is why I have this cop-looking mustache on my face that I've been rocking for about 2 or 3 weeks now, that I'm looking forward to getting rid of at the end of the month.
Well, Mike Elliott liked it.
Oh, did he?
The cop from the last episode.
Yeah.
Which will be out on...
It'll be out on the first Thursday or Friday of next month.
Yeah.
And there's sound bites already out from that show where he was talking about the values that were instilled in him from his parents. But these statistics, so prostate cancer is the most common diagnosed cancer in Canadian men. 1 in 7 Canadian men will get prostate cancer. Testicular cancer is the most common cancer in young men in Canada, and it is also the most curable cancer for young men in Canada.
95% chance of survival.
Yeah, it's a huge, it's kind of, so I think we'll start off with prostate, just because there's way more men who eventually get that. It's one of the things that I found real quick from zerocancer.org for diet was they said, and I'm going to actually contradict this at the end of my little thing here, my little blurb. If you have a diet of primarily plant-based, including plenty of fruits and veggies, high fiber, low fat, and also get yourself some limited in amount of simple sugar intake. So don't put too much sugar is what this zerocancer.org is saying. Regular exercise is very beneficial for preemptive measures. I think that goes without saying. For anything really, working out is good for you regardless. African Americans should get prostate checked at age 40, suggested for 50 for Caucasians and others. African Americans are at a higher risk, as well as here in Canada, so are Quebecois men. Quebecois men are more likely to get prostate cancer than anybody else in Canada.
Why?
Just something with the genes. There's something that I guess we share. Then
It's just natural selection trying to take out all the French people.
well, I think it's like where we come from, right? Like there's probably pieces and bits in there, right? The other piece is this. So here's the contradiction: is that there has never been proven a diet that can prevent prostate cancer, but the balanced diet may be beneficial. So I think this is where we'll talk. Well, let's hear what your stats are.
Okay. So like I got some American stats that prostate cancer is the number one cancer in men that's diagnosed in men, excluding skin cancer. So maybe down in the States they have a problem with skin cancer more than we do in Canada. It's the second leading cause of cancer-related death among men in the States, and 3 out of 10 men are still alive 5 years after being diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer. This is something that I didn't know that was pretty interesting to me. Male hormones such as testosterone cause prostate cancer to grow.
Yeah.
So I wonder if anybody is on the juice,
Like TRT therapy.
Yeah, on some artificial testosterone.
Mexican burritos.
Yeah, they use something called hormone therapy early in treatment to lower test levels in the body to cure prostate cancer. If a tumor continues to grow, even with low test levels, then this is called advanced. The tumor gets sensitive to low levels of test and starts to feed off of and survive on less and still grows. So when your test levels are high or low and the cancer keeps growing, then it turns into advanced cancer. There's evidence to suggest that the tumor can start to produce its own levels of testosterone. I don't know if that's true or not. They just say there's evidence too. But the cancerous tumor for prostate cancer will start to produce its own testosterone to keep it growing. It's weird, eh?
Well, I think it's one of these things too that is very subjective to the test that we're looking at, and unfortunately, because it is the medical industry in North America, how much of this is biased because of pharmaceutical companies and food farming conglomerates,
all working together.
Yeah, trying to, again, going back to this diet that I got from zerocancer.org. I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this right away. I'm not saying that it's not going to work. All I'm saying is there was a huge disclaimer on the internet that said no diet has been proven for a preemptive measure for prostate cancer, right? So again, when we did this research, it's very subject to what information is being disseminated to us, right? And I mean, I didn't just put in an hour or two looking up this stuff. I mean, I put in quite a bit. We did get media packages from certain organizations, and we're presenting you that information right now, basically from those media packages of different organizations. So I mean, I think one of the things that I recognized when I was doing this, especially with the diet piece, because my big questions when I was doing this research was, so what does diet do? What does working out do? What are the necessary trends from men's behaviors? So what are the trends from our behaviors in regards to our diet and our working out that have dictated that we're going to get prostate cancer? Why is it so much more now than it was previously, and was it? Apparently it's not. This has always been a problem for men. It's not something that where it just went off the Richter scale like in the last episode when we were talking about suicide prevention. Yeah. That just went off the Richter scale. You know what I mean? And it's progressively getting worse. Prostate cancer has always been like this for men. The one thing though that is different is testicular cancer for young men, but we're going to get into that in just a little bit. So one of the things that my question was, okay, so they talk about this diet from zerocancer.org, but this is what I've come to understand even in my own trials and tribulations with health and fitness and diet. Your body is different than mine, Kenny. And the thing is the things that you metabolize, you're going to metabolize them in the way that you metabolize them, and I'm going to metabolize things the way that I metabolize them. Your diet almost becomes as personal as the DNA that you're made up with. So like to say that there's a Cinderella shoe that fits all, saying if you eat this, you're not going to get cancer, that's just a bunch of bullshit.
I like the way that George Carlin put it. He's like, fuck cancer. He's like, I ate a bowl of broccoli for lunch.
Yeah.
He's like, broccoli kills cancer.
Yeah. But and that's it. Like we're looking, really what it boils down to, I think, for preemptive measures, if we could even go anywhere near that, is you have to accept that cancer's been in your body since you were born, really. And it's just metastasizing at a quicker rate for others than it isn't. Sure, there are things that you can eat that will definitely give you benefit, like less red meat, apparently chop up more red meat so that it's more digestible. I think one of the things that we definitely overlook is that our society moves so quickly, that what we don't do is we don't eat, like we don't take 45 minutes for a meal. Full 45 minutes.
No, we just slam it.
Yeah. And then the other thing is we eat in abundance. So there's no intermittent fasting really built into our society, especially in the West here in North America.
Well, while we're on this topic right now of like food and red meat and stuff like that, I just want to go back to how I'm like a butt expert with colon hydrotherapy. Yeah. When I was getting that done and when I was like I was researching it lots and talking with with professionals about it.
Yeah.
I heard along the way, I can't remember who, but they told me that 9 out of 10 fatal diseases start in the colon, and like chewing the food was a big thing. Like, because if you have like a chunk of red meat that gets lodged in your mucoid plaque that's lining the walls of your colon, which is just basically old shit, then that's like causes like parasites and tapeworms to grow, and that's where what they said to me is 9 out of 10 fatal diseases, including colon cancer, prostate cancer, stuff like that.
Is where it comes from? Is that what they were suggesting?
Yeah, it's from a toxic colon.
It would make sense to me.
Yeah, if your sewer system in a small town is buggered, like think like 300 years ago, if they had a little town, an inner city dwelling town where they had no sewer system, it's going to be rampant with disease. Yeah. There's going to be disease everywhere, right? Our bodies are the same way. If our colon's full of shit and it's leaking somehow into our bodies, then that's where disease comes from.
Well, and I think that's the other thing too, is we eat a lot of processed food, which your body doesn't understand what that is. So again, I'm going to go on a limb here about veganism, and I know I'm going to get punched in the face for saying this, because there is vegan listeners out there for sure, where a lot of vegan food that's being made, like just like veggie burgers and stuff, the stuff that's holding that glucose, that's holding that food together, is not normal for your body. It's not normal. Same thing with bread. Eating bread is not normal for your body. Your body can digest it, but it's not the easiest thing for it to digest, because we've only been grinding grain since like the Egyptian times. I know that seems like a long time away, but we've been eating meat since a Homo sapien slept with a Neanderthal. Like, that's how long we've been eating meat for. That's also how long we've been eating vegetables for. And I'm not saying that if you're a vegetarian, you have to go and switch over to meat. I'm not suggesting that at all. I mean, if you want to live a plant-based life, well, that's great, fine and dandy, have at it. But I think I lived as a vegan for 2 years under a doctor's recommendation. And I actually end up gaining almost 130 pounds because of it, due to my body taking in so much processed food in regards to like veggie burgers, and like trying to live somewhat of an assimilated life where I didn't really not want to have meat. I wanted meat, but you can't, in my opinion, you can't really substitute it. You know what I mean? What
do you mean, man? They can make tofu look and taste like anything nowadays.
Sure. Well, there's a place here in town where I think it was the best veggie burger I've ever had, because I actually got into a fight with the waitress saying that this was actually, you just gave me meat. because there was no way it wasn't meat. But it was true. Like, she actually did give me a veggie burger. But all I'm getting at is that the stuff that's in there, in my opinion and my lived experience through veganism and then going back to more of a paleo diet, veganism didn't do me well. It made bowel movements even more difficult.
Yeah.
I had a more difficult time. I could feel no energy, and I actually felt gripping depression from it. Like, I was in a hole all of the time through living a more vegan lifestyle.
Yeah, well, it's like you said, we're different. And the way we digest food is different amongst everybody.
Definitely.
And like sometimes it works for people where they get more energy not eating meat, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, and I think also too, the other thing that I found through my own vegan experience is that I carb loaded a lot, because that's just the quickest, easiest thing to eat when there's no meat.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, throw a package of noodles in the pot, boil that up, and then there's a meal, right? Like, I found I was doing that more often than not, or I would starch up on my starchy vegetables a lot and eat a lot of potatoes and stuff, and that's not good either, right?
I was vegan for a year when I was in jail.
Yeah.
But all they gave me every day was beans, and like I was just ripping my asshole apart.
It's brutal.
It was
like,
bad.
Yeah, like, I mean, like I said, veganism probably works for some people. I know for this Frenchman it didn't work, and I don't think I would ever go back to it. I have found serious benefits in the paleo diet. And then when you talk about meat ethics, I do buy from the Hutterites here in my geographical area, so I know that everything is ethically farmed, like everything is free reign. And then I also buy a lot of elk, and I buy a lot of bison meat. Therefore, like, so I know that it's not just coming from some kill 'em farm. You know what I mean? Like, just chopping shit up, you know? So I did do research into that. I mean, I'm not going to say all the time that I'm buying ethically produced meat. Sometimes I don't, because it's just not there in the market. You know what I mean? Like, like as in the grocery store, it's just not there for me to buy.
Well, like in the studies of Masaru Emoto, when he changes the molecular structure of water with intention, and then that kind of like goes like with like the kosher thing, like praying over the food and like blessing it.
Yeah.
So like, you know, just send some loving energy into the food before you eat it, and it doesn't matter if it was like kept in a cage its whole life and abused.
I mean, I guess I just don't want to hand money to that field. Like, I just don't want to give money to that whole conglomerate industry. Yeah. And that's kind of my line. If I could go and hunt, I would probably be going to go hunt all of my meat right now, because I know everything in that animal is going to be used. And for $250, I don't need meat for the year.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people, I guess the reason why we've kind of went to this segue of meat is because a lot of people link meat to prostate cancer specifically. Right. So one of the things that I would suggest is, I don't know really if red meat is the number one cause of prostate cancer. I don't think anybody really does. I mean, it's definitely that there is issues in our diet, and this colon hydrotherapy sounds like it would be a benefit, and it could be. Right? I mean, for some, and maybe not for others.
Yeah.
So the thing is what are preemptive measures? I think, honestly, trying to live the most healthiest life you can possibly be, and that's a process. It's a process of elimination. It's a process of adding certain things into your life.
I called my stepdad late last night, and I woke him up at about 9:30 in hopes that he had a funny story for me, because like he recently went to the doctor to get checked for prostate exam, and
so I have had a prostate exam.
Yeah, how is that?
Strange. A little bit. Well, because they hit your prostate and then you get like semi-hard.
Oh wow!
Right, but now they don't go.
So a dude just made you semi-hard.
Yeah, kind of. Right. But there's nothing you can do. But they don't go through your ass anymore.
No.
What
do they do?
They go through the tip of your dick They go through the tip of your penis with a camera now.
I think I'd rather have it go in my butt.
Yep. Because the hole in the tip of your penis is
small.
It's not big enough really for that thing, and it hurt. Like, it's not fun. It's not fun.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and like the whole way through, it just feels like there's too much. It's just too much.
It's just too much.
Like that's what it feels like. It's like I've passed kidney stones,
Oh
and I've knocked myself out 3 times from kidney stones and broke 2 ribs because I fell.
Pain.
So I passed out because of the pain, and then I woke up in the bathtub with like a broken rib the first time.
You fell in the bathtub.
Yeah. And then the second time, same thing.
Oh my God.
Same rib. And then the third time, I woke up on the floor. But I'm pretty sure I wrung my head off of the toilet bowl because I was pretty out. Like I felt like I had just woken up from a knockout. You know, like I never had my bell rung like that before in my life, like ever. And I'm not going to say that the camera was as bad, but it's just as it's the uncomfortability of it lasts way longer than the uncomfortable pain that comes from passing a kidney stone.
Even like when I went for an STD check, man, this chick stuck this like metal straw up the tip of my dick with this little hook on it and fucking ripped it out to take a skin sample of the inside of my urethra. Yeah, that is not necessary.
No, it doesn't feel like it, right?
That is not necessary. I thought you could just pee in a cup.
Yeah. Nope, not this one.
Do this.
Yeah. This is we're not helping the industry get people tested very much. But I mean, it's one of these things where after you've gone through it, it's not really a big deal. But I think it also takes away I didn't know what I was getting into when I went for these tests, right?
I would much rather a female doctor put her fingers in my butt than a male doctor.
You don't really get to choose though, especially here in Canada. Right? Whatever doctor's available is whatever doctor's available. You know, in America, I mean, at least you could kind of be like, yeah, well, sounds like she's got a hot name. You know? And then when you see them, you're like, no, I'm not going through with this one. Where's your sister?
Let me see your hands. That's
first question. If this is going to happen,
put your hand up against mine.
Yeah. If this is going to happen, this has to be the least evasive way ever. Right? So let's touch on, I'm going to throw out the things that I had found about testicular cancer. So this is the most common cancer in men in Canada and the most curable cancer. Signs that you may have testicular cancer is pain, a dull ache, a heaviness, lump, or swelling is noticeable in the testicles. Next, survival is very good. You had suggested 95% is likely to be cured of testicular cancer. The fear of not being able to please your partner is what will psychologically stop the man from being able to get an erection. So like the treatment itself is not going to stop you from getting an erection. Most changes in sexual desire will change in time as sexual issues arouse from this at all. So like basically in the beginning you kind of have a low sex drive, but it'll change as time goes on. And then anxiety about the sexual activity will contribute to a lower sex drive and also loss of sexual desire, right? So it's all psychological. The myth that cancer will put an end to your love life is total horseshit. That doesn't happen. And then cancer causes erectile dysfunction. That's not true either. But what it does do is it creates such a low sperm count that the likelihood of you inseminating a woman is highly, highly unlikely. It can happen, but it doesn't typically all the time, and most likely not going to, right?
My girlfriend helped me research some of this stuff, and then right after she's like, "Take your pants off. I'm giving you an exam."
So I've dealt with this. I've gone through treatment.
You've had testicular
personally,
cancer.
Yeah. So I can't have kids now, and it was through active addiction. So I was using, and then I looked into like why and the what's. One of the things that I had seen from way back when was birth control. So birth control has been making men physically smaller over time because there's a higher amount of estrogen in birth rates of men since birth control has been around. And it's also a contributing factor. Birth control is also a contributing factor to men having lower sex drive as well as lower sperm counts. And this has been happening. Like, we are really the first generation of boys that came from birth control. So they are starting to see, like, from the generation that's been born after us, which is literally third generation of women taking birth control, sexual function in boys is smaller, right? Like, so being a North American man, being of the normality of 3 to 6 inches, all right, soft, is the larger portion in the world. Okay, like if you go to India, they don't compare. If you go to China, it doesn't compare. It's just the way that we were built because we have more of a European descent. But what they're starting to see is the new average is going to be 1 inch to 6 inches with the generation that's coming up behind us. And the reason for it is they're saying is that it's the higher dosages of estrogen that has genetically changed women over the consortment of years of birth control being introduced into the women's DNA, right? So this is kind of like a long-term side effect that we had never seen in birth control. Then the other thing too is BPA in plastic. You and I were definitely exposed to BPA, and this is another reason for lower sperm counts. Well, so they say it's linked to, but again, it's all this that I'm saying is very subjective. Like, you can go out on the internet and find many things that'll contradict what I'm saying, and then you'll find many articles that prove what I'm saying. So, I mean, this is literally just an open conversation of the things that we had seen, because I'm sure we're going to get some listeners out there who are like, hey, fuck you, fucko, you're like totally kicking the shit out of birth control and it's the best thing ever. And then there's some women out there who are like, I don't take birth control as a pill, I just get an abortion. I'm not recommending that either, because that can ruin you to ever have a child again after so many abortions, right? So I think one of the things to recognize when, or if you do have testicular cancer, is your life is going to be sexually normal afterwards. The only thing is that you may want to be more open towards adoption. What do you have?
I got a little bit here. You already said that stuff about 95% chance of survival. In Canada, it's most commonly diagnosed cancer. Most at risk is 15 to 25 years old, or if you have like undescended testes at birth, so if your balls don't drop, or a family history of testicular cancer. Several types most common is the germ cell tumor, and then so the germ cell. The DNA contains instructions that provides information for cells to grow and divide. If instructions are changed in any way or not repaired by the body's own safety checks, cancer can develop. The cells can grow out of control, and the instructions of the cells cannot turn it off. If the cancer cell grows and divides millions of times, tumors can develop. Cells in the testes are called germ cells. Germ cell tumor, that's where it came from. Germ cell is the most common two types. Seminomus.
Yeah, I did.
Seminomus.
Yeah,
90% of that, you'll get a good outcome, a good prognosis.
Yeah, but that's the most commonly diagnosed.
Yeah.
Is seminomus, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's non-seminomus.
And that can be an issue.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not good. 56% is good. 56% good.
Where did that stat come from, though? Is that America or Canada? Because that's a big...
This is testicularcancer.ngo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah.
If not caught in early stages, it can spread to the lungs or other distant areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the big one. So, like, when I found out that I had an issue, it's because it looked like I literally had 3 testicles.
Oh my God.
That's what it looked like. I remember when they did their invasive surgery because they lanced things out of me or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
My testicles were so big, I literally had to sit on a hemorrhoid pad and use a wheelchair because I couldn't walk. My testicles would
Like how big?
like fucking two oranges.
Wow.
Like 2 navel oranges.
Wow.
Yeah. That's basically what happened. And then they sewed the back of my sack up. And then I still had chemotherapy and all of this other stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like I am infertile pretty much for life. Like the likelihood of me ever having a child now is like, I think it's 5 in 1 billion or whatever, because like that's how many boys I have swimming.
I have this friend, and when we were in jail together, he would walk around and it looked like he just had this huge package, like he just had this giant wrench on him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, how big is that thing? He's like, oh, it's tiny. He goes, that's my nuts. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, one of my nuts is swollen up like a Kinder Egg, like a Kinder Egg chocolate.
Yeah, yeah.
Like before and I'm like, no way. And he got kicked in the nuts by the cops.
Oh.
And like one of his balls just like permanently swelled up and filled with water.
Jesus Christ.
And then it like got hard.
Wow.
Like so they couldn't even drain it.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest fear I had even going through this, like I didn't even want to do it because I thought my sexual life was done.
Yeah.
And I was so recluse from my family, I didn't even tell them. Like I went through that solo.
You know, my grandma, she had cancer 3 times and never told a single person. We didn't find out until she died, and when we were going through her stuff, we found the medical records.
Yeah, I mean
3 times, and she didn't tell any of us.
I think it's one of those things where you don't want anybody to fret over you.
Yeah,
kind of. That's kind of what ends up happening, and especially in active addiction, I didn't really think anybody would care enough about me. Like because of this issue, and then I thought that they'd just be around me disingenuous because you know, always dying, but they kind of all hope that I do die
because you're a scumbag.
Yeah, basically, right?
Yeah.
So I just didn't say anything.
And now you're not a scumbag.
Yeah, but I still check like quite regularly because but the likelihood of it coming back is highly unlikely.
Really?
Once it's gone.
I thought cancer comes back.
Well, it's in remission, right? But the likelihood of testicular cancer coming back in that exact spot is highly unlikely. What is likely, though, is that you'll get cancer somewhere else in your body. But because it's such a curable cancer, and literally curable, like it's not just remission, it's gone. Like it's gone, right? So the likelihood of you getting cancer again somewhere else in your body is like 20, 30, 40 years down the road if you don't take care of yourself.
Here's a cure for cancer. Change your pH. So biomes, including cancer, can only grow in either low oxygen or high acid environments. And if you change your pH, the cancer cannot grow in an alkaline state. So you only need to change your pH a bit. And the information's out there, the exact number. I don't have it off the cuff, but by drinking like a tablespoon of organic or not organic, like baking soda, like not Arm & Hammer, because that has other stuff in it, but some organic baking soda, and then a tablespoon of blackstrap molasses, and you stir that up in a cup and you drink that twice a day. It might make you a little bit queasy at first, but it will change your pH enough that the cancer can no longer grow. There.
I mean, I think that's maybe one thing that might work, you know? Like I said, I think it's very subjective because really cancer is an unknown malignant. See, cancer used to be used as a word as like he's cancerous, right? And the reason why they were saying was cancer really just means malicious evil. That's what it means, right? Like it's unrelenting, right? But the reality is you really don't know where it comes from, what its stem is. So when we talk about cancer, it's really it's an abyss of the unknown, of cells that we can definitely identify as malignant. And secondly, it is relentless in its growth. Like that's why it literally, and it's malicious and it's evil in its own nature. Right? So like that's really why these diseases are called cancer, because like I said, it's an abyss. it has traits that are all the same. However, the individuality in between them is almost as individual as you and me, right? So there is that piece to cancer in itself. You know what I mean? So that's why I think like sure, why does something like the treatments work, like when you go for like I forget what that treatment's called now off the top of my head, when it just kills everything in your system. So the reason I forget what it's called now. I forget what
like
that's
an
called.
antibiotic.
No, it's more than that. Radiation. When you get radiation treatment, that's the word I was looking for. When you get radiation treatment, it literally just kills everything in your body. That's literally what it's doing. So the organisms in your body go to a place where there's nothing left, and then it rebuilds itself, right? And this is where, when you weren't here when I had Dr. Shapiro in on the show, we were talking about DNA recoding, right? So off air, one of the things that we had kind of discussed was what would happen if you had this radiation and you went through cancer treatment, and then what they did was they recoded your DNA not to have that deficiency of cancer, right? Well, then it would actually have a cure, right? So this is what the recoding DNA stuff is. That's kind of the track that they're trying to go on. Like they can already, like I have pretty bad eczema on my hand, and so they can put this DNA recoding in my body, because essentially what my eczema is it's like an allergy towards something. And so this is like the defense of my body trying to say or defend against whatever is triggering it, right? So all of a sudden, if I were to ingest or take this DNA recoding, it would tell my body there's no need to do that anymore. You don't have to produce this in order to defend the body. But the next thing is, or the next step in DNA recoding will be, or where they're heading to, is how to stop deficiencies like cancer from ever even being coded into the DNA, right? That's where it'll end up happening. We're already in a place now where people are basically ordering their children to have blue eyes, blonde hair, or whatever, and this is through DNA recoding.
Cool.
Like that's
really
That's
interesting.
That's the cutting edge of what's like that's why I, even as a Catholic, agree with stem cell therapy. Stem cell therapy is 100% needed, because that's, in my opinion, that'll be the precipice of essentially a global medical association figuring out how to keep us alive longer. And there's been suggestion that the longer that we live, the less we're going to have birth rates. Right? Like the longer we live, the less likely we're going to keep just having babies. I mean, we're already seeing that in our society.
Overpopulation?
Yeah. Like if you look in our society, Canada has the lowest birth rates in the Western world altogether, except for, I think, a couple countries in Europe.
Well, I don't know. We're having like, what, 1 million or something like that, new people coming here?
But it's mostly refugees that are bringing babies.
That may change that.
And a big reason for that, if we're going to go, like, even
it's
to
culture.
touch on that, it's not just our culture, it's the amount of money it costs to have a child in our society here in Canada. It's ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
Like it's expensive. Well, you know, like how much is it costing you for your girls, would you estimate, per year? If you had to per diem it.
Probably like 30,000.
Yeah.
Well, for like both of them, I don't know. Like with child support alone, it's $1,000 a month, so that's $12,000. But then everything else that I pay and do with them on top of that, it's probably around 25,000.
So is it like 24,000 just?
No,
like
12,000.
Okay.
Yeah, for child support. Yeah.
So 12,000 a year, then plus all the extras.
Yeah.
If you were to say that they're extras, but they're not really extras.
They're not
it's
extras.
Just, it's just
the
the
living life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think most, and then you think too, like, yeah, on the other side of the coin, they're paying as well. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it is expensive.
Yeah.
It is very, very expensive in Canada. Mm-hmm. And we have like tax benefit credits and stuff here in Canada for children, but it doesn't really cover all that much.
Child allowance and stuff.
Yeah, like it's not a hell of a lot of money really, So, I mean, I think back to this whole piece about the testicular cancer, one of the things that I had asked the internet is, how is it that all of a sudden we have more people today afflicted with testicular cancer at such a younger age than ever before? And again, the big things that popped up was birth control, BPA, and basically this is a phenomenon since about 1978 till now, and it's increasing.
I encourage everybody to check out thetruthaboutcancer.com. Like I was just spinning through it right now because I wanted to get some more accurate things about the pH and the pH of the blood.
Yeah.
So we're usually so 7.35 is neutral. Anything below that is acidic. Anything above that is alkaline.
But what is a pH exactly?
pH is, it says, something having to do with hydrogen.
I think anybody, though, who is going to follow up on this still needs to talk to their doctor prior to just going ahead and playing Google Doctor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've all done that, and then you freak out, and you're like, oh, my God, I'm fucking dying. By the end of next week, I'm dead. You know what I mean? Like, how many times have you done that where you're like, look at this thing on me. What the hell?
So pH stands for either potential hydrogen or power of hydrogen. Our pH is measured on a scale from 0 to 14, 7.35 being neutral. So some of the foods, so our blood pH changes a lot with the food that we eat. And the reason why there's so much cancer in North America is because there's a lot of shitty foods that we eat, and we are in the habit of eating, deep fried foods, excess of meat, processed foods. Processed food is highly acidic. And it says in here that we should follow an 80-20 rule and try to eat 80% alkaline foods and have about 20% of our diet be acidic. And if anybody wants, by show of hands, okay, that's enough. I'll read off some of the alkaline foods for you. Raw vegetables and fruits, figs, lima beans, olive oil, honey, molasses, apple cider vinegar, tempeh, raw milk, raw cheese, stevia, green tea, most herbs, sprouted grains, sprouts, wheatgrass, and barley grass. Yogurt, kefir, butter are neutral. And several acidic forming foods are sodas, coffee, alcohol, chocolate, tobacco, aspartame, meats, oysters, fish, eggs, chicken, pasteurized milk, processed grains, sugar, peanut butter, beans, and pasta. So my whole diet.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, even that diet that I had read off by zerocancer.org, like I said, I think it's really subjective from each person. You know what I mean? Like that could work. However, I mean, if you're somebody, let's face it, if you're somebody from a very northern community here in Canada, you're high-fat diet, right? Mm-hmm. And basically, genetically, what's happened is you've come to a place where you actually metabolize fat in a different way than you and I even come close to metabolizing fat.
Yeah, well, like up north in like Northwest Territories and Iqaluit and stuff like that, like their diets are like 80% fat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they just live off seals.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at our diet, obviously it's not to that extreme, but like I said, the metabolization of that fat is different than you and I.
Yeah. Like
just even being French, I metabolize food, like carbs are fucking horrible for me. Bread is horrible for me. It's not, like I have to keep that stuff far, far away. And a treat is rice. Like literally, you know what I mean? Like if I'm going to carb load, that it'll be rice, and I have to make sure that the next day I'm lifting weights in order to burn that shit off, or even that day. Like if I'll usually eat before I lift, yeah. So then I'll carb load pretty heavy before that, and then even afterwards I still feel like shit, just because it's carbs that went through my system, So I mean. I think everybody there's this thing too that Kettlebell Keith, when he was talking about this test you can take, and it'll literally tell you what your DNA is dictating you should be eating and what you should not be eating.
What?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I'm going to get a hold of him, and I'm actually going to take that test. It's like $70.
Yeah, I want to take it too.
And it's like a DNA test. And when I do that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to say like, this is basically what the test told me to do or whatever.
I don't know if I want to do that because it might tell me to stop eating my favorite food every day, which is
this was the thing. This was the thing that. So I know somebody who in my life right now who's a vegan, and we were talking about doing this, and they had said to me, they said, "Well, what if it tells me that I have to eat meat?" She's like, they're like, "No, I don't want to do that at all. If that's the case, like I just do not want to be a part of having to have to eat those kinds of foods." And I basically said this, you know what? It's like changing your ideology, right? If you identify with like, and I'm just going to use politics. So like, let's say you identify with the right wing, okay, or conservative views or liberal views. And all of a sudden you recognize that those things are not serving you in a positive way. Yet you're not willing to give them up because it's an ideology and you've claimed that identity through that ideology.
Hi, my name's Kenny and I'm a vegan.
Or the thing that ends up happening is it's like, I would rather die than say that this is not of benefit for me. You know, like we had disclosed right in the beginning of the show, maybe veganism might help people. That's great. And if that's the way you get along in life and you feel good about it, all the best to you. God bless. But if you're somebody who is eating a bunch of meat and you need more fruits and vegetables, and you have the ability to go get that, and you take this test and it says, "Hey, asshole, you need to be eating more spinach." Well, guess what? You should probably do it because it's going to be beneficial for you to do that, right? It's about living the best life. It's not about what my ideology has to win. Like that's ridiculous. That's such a ridiculous grandstanding platform to be on, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It's like us saying, "Well, I'll prove the world wrong and keep on using drugs and burn my fucking life down." I mean, that's what we were doing when we were in active addiction. I think that's one thing that we learn coming out of that to now is how to succumb to an ideology of surrendering, saying this is not serving me well, therefore I'm changing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we have to remain fluid with everything, like whether it's, you know, especially with our habits, we have to be open to changing what doesn't serve us.
Well, and it's like the same thing when we were just saying, like, I'd rather have a woman stick their finger up my ass than not. I mean, really, at the end of the day, yeah, it'd be great if that was the case. But if it's some guy doctor, I mean, what are you going to do? You have to get it done.
Yeah.
So you have to come to that. You have to surmise that idea that you need to surrender to what's about to happen.
Just go look for a female doctor. And
I mean, if you have the ability to do that, well, then all the power to you. Same thing with testicular cancer. I mean, from what I was reading, man, there's a lot of men out there who just decided, screw this. I'm not getting the treatment because I'll never be able to be with my wife again.
Yeah, it'll contribute to suicide.
Well, that's crazy.
It almost is suicide.
In a long term.
Yeah.
Right? And then and then obviously the problem just gets worse and worse and worse, right? To eventually you have no choice but to deal with what you're dealt.
Well, like, you got to do your research too, and like, for everybody out there, you know, tell your friends and tell your husbands, and keep in mind that if you catch it early, it's definitely treatable. I
mean, it's asshole health, right? That's really what it is. It's asshole health. It's not just your prostate, it's your colon, it's everything in the back door. You know what I mean? It's got to get, especially we as men, I think just off the bat for men, we have a difficult time going to the doctor. Secondly, I don't think we're as intuitive about our bodies as women are. So like,
yeah, well, we got these stupid macho egos that.
Well, I even think maybe not even that. It's more one of these things where if I don't know, men like to be ignorant and naive, right? Like,
yes.
It's there, but if I don't really know what the problem is. But then, I mean, it was like this. I did an STD test, and this is honest to God truth. 6 months before the STD test, I had AIDS. I was telling everybody I had AIDS. I'm fucking dying, right? I haven't even taken the test yet. But yet, my mind, I'm fucking dying. Like, that's it, that's all. Then I take the test. Well, for sure, it already came back, even though it hasn't come back. I'm even worse dying than I was dying before, right? Because now the test is done. I even told the doctor I had AIDS, right? When this is all going down, I have AIDS. How do you know? I said, I'm pretty sure I slept with somebody who had AIDS. And he's like you could see he's looking at me like, this fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like that's, he's not going to say that, but that's what was happening. But in my mind, I had already built it up to that. So, I mean, so then I left and I told everybody in my circle at that time, I have fucking AIDS and I'm dying. And they're like grieving for me. And I don't know a goddamn thing at that moment. And then next thing you know, the test comes back and I'm like fit as a whistle. There's nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong with me, right? And so now I had to go back to all of my friends and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not dying. You know, I don't have AIDS. They're like, what? You just told me that you did. I was like, yeah, well, denial. I didn't even know I lied. You know, like that's, and I think we do that as men, really, where we're just like, we just blow it out to this grandiose, like extreme place where we're like, well, I'm already dying anyways. Why do I have to, why should I go and waste the doctor's time? You know, why should I even go find out what the real problem is? I mean,
because you're all valuable.
My testicles are huge. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Like I'm dying. Why do I need to go see a doctor? Well, you may not even be that. You may just have an abscessed testicle and it may not be cancer, right?
Yeah. Even with like colon cancer, 60% of deaths could be prevented with regular screening.
Yeah.
With colon cancer.
Yeah.
25% diagnosed have a family history with colon cancer.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's one of these things too when we're talking about like men's health. Obviously, the biggest thing that we're missing, especially in North American society, is going to the gym and working out. I mean, it's right now, if you look at the trend, more men are working out now than they ever were before, right?
Yeah, in the gym, and like from me just becoming a trainer and like going to school and everything like that and being in the gym all the time, the average people in the gym are like 40 to 55-year-old males who have the time and the money to have a gym pass and to go there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think because of that, and the trend is changing, I think men are becoming more in tuned to what their needs are. But I also think when you have physical fitness, it also helps your mental fitness, and then it helps all of the organisms in your body. Your body is working in a way that's more efficient.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah. Than it ever has been, provided that you do that for yourself, right? And it's one of these things too, like, and I'll speak on like my own obesity and the mental struggle that I've gone through is that it feels like you're not making any gains right away, but you have to look at it. Well, what I do is I look at it like a bank. I'm just putting in a debit, so to say, towards my account, because it's not about changing my physique in the next 6 or 7 months. It's really about learning the ritual to adapt it into my cycle every day, as opposed to the old fighting style of feast or famine, and this is off time and this is fight time and this is, you know what I mean? Like that's not a very good schedule, and it's not an adaptable schedule to be fit all of the time, because either you're all out all of the time or you're not out at all, you know?
Yeah.
And so this way of living, fit for life, so to say, is something that, you know, you don't have to go to the gym and work out 4 hours a day, whereas being a fighter, you do, you know? So it's one of those things where, you know, you got to look at what can you get done in an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if you have the time.
Listen,
right?
2 hours at the gym is way too much time. Nobody needs to spend more than an hour in the gym. As soon as you spend over an hour in the gym, you're actually doing, you're having a negative effect on your body, because then like you're not going to grow any muscle if you work out for over an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're doing the same thing over and over again too, like I've always mixed up cardio and lifting, right? But my lifting isn't like going in and power lifting or anything like that. My lifting is like kettlebells and that kind of stuff. Like I like working muscle as opposed to anything. And then
rep range is huge too. So like,
I don't go over 12.
Well, okay, I'll tell you what it is. So anything from like 1 to 6 reps is for strength,
mm-hmm.
and strength. And then anything from 8 to 12 is hypertrophy. So that's like building muscle, like creating muscle size. And then anything over 12 is endurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think a balance too, if you can figure out some sort of activity that you actually enjoy doing, no matter what, you're going to burn calories that way too. So it's not, if you don't enjoy going to the gym, lifting weights, you might enjoy swimming, you might enjoy running. Most runners though, I am a runner, most runners don't actually enjoy running. They've done it. Like the first 5 minutes of the run, you're like, shit, my hips. Oh, my knees. Oh, my shoulders. Shit. My breathing. Damn it. And then you get into it. It's kind of like hiking. Like you suffer in silence when you hike. Like on all my long hikes, nobody likes the first day. Nobody does. Like nobody does. And then the first half of the second day is even worse. And then by the third day, you get into the groove and you're ready for the climate. You're ready for the climate, you're ready for the elevation, and you're ready to rock and roll. And it's almost like a saddening when you leave the range, because you're like, shit, I got to do this fucking thing all over again. Like that's kind of what happens as you're like de-elevating almost, right?
Yeah.
But I think, again, all this cancer stuff really boils down to what's your physical fitness like? What is your mental health like? Get it in check and do it young. And as long as you're doing that, I think you'll have one of the best lives, except for maybe some sort of mishaps or unfortunates that just isn't in your control.
Symptoms to watch out for colon cancer: if you have unusual fatigue, bowel habits changing, like if you all of a sudden your shit habits change, weight loss, like sudden unexplained weight loss, or blood in the stool.
Yeah.
Go get checked.
Testicular cancer too, you can sometimes have blood in the urine. And this will tell you that like something's bleeding obviously inside of you. Do you know?
I did ketamine for a year straight, and for 8 months of that year I was shitting black. Oh, yeah. And I didn't know why, right? I just thought my poop was black, right?
Yeah.
And then one day I was like, hey Mom, my shits have been black for like 6 months. She's like, what? That's internal bleeding. I was like, oh shit. Maybe I better stop doing ketamine.
Anyway, I think we touched on all that we did. The next episode, we're going to get into some men's rights stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that episode, and that'll be out next week on the Friday, and that'll be the conclusion of Movember. So here's our hour. If you want to wrap it up, Kenny.
Please subscribe and share it to all your friends. Where can you find the After Show blog? www.lifeonlifestermspodcast.com.
I always want to say WWF, but never happens.
You're so old. It's not even called that anymore.
I know, it's WWE, but in my mind, it's still WWF.
Become a Pride member. Submit your email address at your soonest convenience.
Yeah, it'd be great.
A pride is a pack of lions.
We're also going to be putting out a competition out there for extra bloggers. If you would like to, if you've been listening to the episodes, I would ask you to submit a personal opinion piece to Justin at lifeonlifestermspodcast.com. I will gladly read your opinion piece, and if you give us 2 or 3 opinion pieces, we may invite you to become a regular blogger for Life on Life's Terms in regards to some of the episodes that we have. So, yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a wonderful Friday.
See you.